Welcome to the Peep Show podcast.
News and stories from the sex industry.
With Jesse and PJ Sage. Welcome back to another episode of the Peep Show podcast. Today we have a special episode featuring 16 different sex workers' stories about their lives during the COVID-19 pandemic. They share a range of experiences, emotions, and wisdom that we can't wait for you to hear. But first, a chat with your hosts.
This episode of the Peep Show podcast is sponsored by Quick and Dirty Media.
Are you an independent content creator, webcam model, or clip maker? Quick and Dirty Media can help you with your video editing and production needs at a reasonable price, allowing you to devote more time to creating your content. As a special offer for Peep Show podcast listeners, the first 5 content creators who submit a video for editing will receive their first order free. Make sure to use the promo code PeepShowPod. Find Quick and Dirty Media on Twitter at QuickDirtyMedia or send an email to info@quickanddirtymedia.com. Quick and Dirty Media is proud to be an adult-friendly business.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Peep Show podcast.
Welcome.
Today we have a unique episode for you.
Yeah, we do. So one of the things that we thought would be really important was to bring together stories of how sex workers are surviving during COVID-19. And in order to do that, we thought that having a variety of voices would be better. Obviously, people are having a range of experiences, and they have been for the last couple of months.
Right. So normally we have like 1 or 2 guests on and we do interviews, like longer interviews with them. But for this episode, we asked folks just to send us audio clips, kind of like a little radio diary. Mm-hmm. It ended up really working out. We thought these clips were really cool. It's kind of like a little intimate glimpse into people's lives.
Yeah, and you say the word intimate, and I think that that's how I felt. I've been going over these audios for the last week in preparation for this episode, and I was realizing as I was listening to the voices of many of the voices that I know and love as friends and colleagues, and I miss my friends. I miss interacting with other sex workers, just other people in general. And I don't know, there was something really powerful, personally to me about hearing from my friends and my colleagues and people that I have a tremendous amount of respect for.
Which points to the fact that we are also sex workers who are trying to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. And one of the things that's been big for us that didn't get talked about all that much in the recordings is having to negotiate work with kids at home all the time.
Work. Yeah, I almost laugh because it's been so hard that I feel like it's been almost impossible, which isn't to say that I'm not working or we're not trying, but I really feel like I'm just kind of trying to hang on as much as possible to the handful of clients that are sustaining me. And it's been really hard. It's been really hard with being a full-time 24/7 parent and also trying to sneak in sexiness and client interactions.
Right. And I mean, in terms of content production, everything has to be pretty low key. We're not busting out the big camera and the lights or anything. And so, we haven't really put out much in the way of clips.
No, not at all. And so it's been really hard. It's been hard to maintain my OnlyFans when I have very little time and very little privacy to do any of my work. It's been hard to sneak in phone calls and other Skype interactions with my clients. It's hard. It's been maybe the hardest time for us, to work, with the exception of when you were sick, which was significantly harder, which is probably also part of our story.
Well, yeah. And it's when I was sick, I mean, I'm still just recovering from cancer and I still have a lot of lingering side effects from chemo and from surgery. And if you're listening and you don't know, I had testicular cancer. So, the kind of cancer that I had, it's particularly had an impact on my ability to work. You know, I was already really struggling to recover. And then this whole COVID-19 thing happened. So it's been hard.
Yeah, it has. It's been hard to figure out how to like get a rhythm and get anything done at all.
At least we've had more time for podcasting.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I think we ended up doing, which was like shifting a lot of our like energy away from content creation, like in terms of like erotic content creation, and more toward writing and podcasting and things that we can do with the kids around. So I think we're fairly lucky that we can like shift focus like that. But the sex work itself has actually been kind of tabled. It's limping along. Hobbling and limping along. And we're just kind of waiting to have like space in our lives again.
To be able to shoot customs and other sorts of things like that.
Yeah. And with our friends, like be able to like collaborate with other people.
Right. And that's a good point. A number of people mentioned in their story how they had kind of big work plans lined up that ended up getting canceled because of COVID.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of things involving travel and whatnot. And it's the same for us. We often collaborate with other folks, and you just can't really do that right now.
I also have to say that without being able to collaborate, to share like the energy of other sex workers, it's also been really hard to maintain the same sort of motivation when you don't leave the house and you don't have any interactions outside of your house. Like the idea of like getting up and getting ready and putting on makeup and being camera ready is significantly harder.
Yeah. I mean, not that I personally have to do as much work to be camera ready as you do, but I feel you, you know? I mean...
Yeah, it's not even like I could carve out 45 minutes to do that, but the problem is that it's, I don't know, the whole atmosphere, the whole like general zeitgeist is not like intense sexiness, but like domesticity in a way that's hard to feel very sexy in. Before we dive into the stories, we want to just point out that while these 16 stories give you a flavor of the different sorts of experiences that people are having right now in the sex industry, it obviously doesn't represent all people and all experiences or all the experiences of sex workers.
Yeah, in particular, I think probably the most marginalized people in the industry are going to be the folks with the least emotional bandwidth and resources to contribute to a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just want to like hold space for that too. And to say that we know, this isn't going to tell everybody's stories, but it tells, some. And we're happy to be able to share these stories.
All right. So with that, let's go ahead and turn to our stories.
All right. Let's get to it.
Thanks for joining us today. Jesse and I are dedicated to platforming sex worker voices and covering important political issues for those in the sex trades. But we can't do it without your help.
If you believe in our mission, find us at patreon.com/peepshowpodcast and show us some love.
We're also seeking advertisers to help us grow. Thanks for helping us make Peep Show happen.
Hi, I'm Princess Berpl. I am an independent porn creator, and I'm also a cam model. I rely entirely on cyber sex work for my income, so my job is just business as usual during the pandemic. I'm self-employed, so I don't need to worry about my job security, and because I work entirely online, I'm able to use shipment and delivery services, so I don't even need to be exposed to other humans. If anything, COVID has actually increased my sales and interaction on social media. I think that's because people don't have as much contact with their social circles, and they rely heavily on entertainers like Twitch streamers or cam models like me. So, as sad as it sounds, COVID has been really good for the camming business, but Even as an introvert, I'm becoming painfully aware of how difficult it is to be apart from my friends for months. The isolation takes on a new meaning now that it's forced. As a result, I've been yearning for things that I usually dread, like being stuck in a crowd or waiting in line, because at least that way I could be around other people. I find myself spending a lot of my time fending off depression, actually. I don't have much to look forward to or a timeline for when I'll have that sort of thing again. But I'm happy to say my efforts so far have been succeeding. And social distancing has surprisingly pushed me to work harder on myself. But I'm definitely looking forward to returning to some semblance of normalcy.
Hey there, this is Lycha Rose. My pronouns are she and her. COVID-19 has resulted in some canceled gigs and trade shows for me. 3 conventions that I was planning to attend have either been canceled or postponed, and in fact, I had been nominated for Ms. Unique for the Transgender Erotica Awards 2020, so back in March when they were scheduled, I had flown out to Los Angeles for them. But within 3 hours of landing, the award show had been postponed indefinitely. I also got teary-eyed hearing about FetishCon's cancellation this year because I feel so at home there. I've been able to do more video sessions online, but I was hoping I could fall back on my day job a bit, which has been impacted by COVID-19 as well, of course. So, just a little bit fucked over here, and not in the good way. You can find me on most social media. I'm like a hoe pretty much everywhere, spelled Lychaxo, and I've started building a portal to all my content and social media at tslycha.com, tslycha.com.
Hi, I'm Reese Piper, and I'm a writer living in Brooklyn, and up until this pandemic, I was a stripper for about 5 years. Before the pandemic hit, I was supposed to fly down to Miami where I was going to rent a car and drive 4 hours down the beautiful stretch of road that leads to Key West. There, I was planning on stripping for 6 weeks. I've done this several times before. I'd head down to the island a few times a year, where I'd wake up at noon, watch easy television like 90 Day Fiancé, and then, when night rolled around, I'd hop on my bike and ride to the club and work until daybreak. The work was hard, and usually after the second week, I'd start to resent the mirrored walls, the boring chatter with customers. I'd miss going out to the bars with my friends back home in New York, but the routine was comforting, and it was comforting to watch my bank account grow. In the early days of March, when coronavirus started to dominate the news, I kept refreshing my newsfeed, hoping to find an article that offered a grain of hope that the virus would be over in a few weeks, that this would all blow over, that I would be able to go to Florida after all. I had $500 in my bank account. I needed to make money down there. But just like when you sail out to sea and at first you feel queasy, but then after a while your body adjusts to the choppy waters. By the second week of March, I settled into the fact that I wasn't flying anywhere, that I wouldn't be stripping for a while, that I might never strip again. I immediately clicked into action. I created a night flight account. I took a bunch of photos to launch an OnlyFans. I planned to start camming. The problem was that so many other strippers had the same plan, and just like at the club when the floor is flooded with dancers, it's really hard to make money in a saturated market. And after a few nights on Night Flirt where I only made $20 or $30, I knew that in order to start a new online business from scratch, I was going to have to push myself into overdrive. I was going to have to work all day, then maybe until the early hours of the morning. I was going to have to think about online marketing, how to present myself visually, how to build a regular customer base. But I didn't have much energy for it, and after nearly 5 years of stripping, my mind was tired of sex work. It hit me in the champagne room last August. I was dancing for a run-the-mill customer, you know the type, mid-40s, droopy eyes, gray hair, dad vibes. His military tours in Iraq had prematurely aged him, but that didn't matter to me. He was easy as customers go, didn't push for sex, always offered to buy me whiskey on the rocks, always bought 2 hours in advance. In exchange, he wanted me to be positive and present an air of ease, which was okay. It was always okay. It's my job to be happy, isn't it? But when he rested his lips on my neck, I took a moment to look out the tinted window that enclosed the room, and I realized that I was tired of this charade. I was tired of being this happy-go-lucky girl who loves everything that my customers love. I told myself not to complain. You just made money. You should be happy. But somewhere deep inside, I was worried about my soul. After that night, something shifted in me. I started zoning out during lap dances. I started hiding out in the bathroom stall. I started crying after shifts. Sure, I smiled, laughed, flirted, consoled, listened, touched, humped, because, rent was due. But something in me had cracked, and I could no longer pretend that I wasn't yearning for a life outside of these carpeted boots and pulsing music. I wanted intimacy, real intimacy. Sex work requires you to give 100% of yourself and receive nothing in return. Sure, we get money, validation, and satisfaction for making people happy. And these things are nice. They are needed, but they don't move the soul. They can feed you, keep a roof over your head, sustain you emotionally for a little bit, but they can't nourish you in the long run. When the pandemic hit, I was planning my way out. I was ready to stop dancing. I know there are plenty of sex workers who have amazing partners and great relationships outside of work, but I am not one of them. For as long as I've been a stripper, I've never pursued my heart. And sure, I've dated, but I've never felt the flutter of excitement when you see someone you really like, that burning desire to touch someone. All my energy was poured into my customers. But then the prospects of getting a job outside of sex work dwindled as the economy crashed, and so with a sense of dread, I started a night flirt account. But after a few nights, I began researching other ways to make money. I wrote a few articles. I worked a few shifts on Instacart. I stopped paying rent. I guess I'm lucky that I don't have kids to feed or a partner who relies on me to earn a living. In a way, I wish I had, because then I'd at least have a family to be with through this. I'd at least have people around me. The irony is that after I finally admitted to myself just how much I'm pining for love, I've been shuttered away in isolation. It's easy to hide your loneliness in the sex industry. It's easy to escape into your customers' desires, to lose sight of your own needs when you're constantly giving and giving. But now that I'm not working and spending day after day alone, my loneliness has ripped open. Now I feel it, really feel it. I'm living off the government stimulus check, praying the landlord doesn't demand rent. I'm hoping to get unemployment. In the meantime, I know I should make that OnlyFans account and get back on Night Flirt, but my survival instincts haven't kicked in yet. For now, I'm roaming around my apartment, waiting, just waiting.
Hi, this is Nadia Layne, and to answer your question about how the shutdown and everything has affected my sex business, I've been doing a lot more sexting, and normally I'm kind of a video person, or a clip girl, if you will, but sexting has been seems like a lot more demand for it, and I've been doing a lot of it on my free OnlyFans page. It just allows me to explore a lot more things that I don't really do in clips. So I don't really do cuckolding, for example, in my clips, but I can be a hot wife in my sexting, and it's really fun because I kind of like the writing aspect of it, and I love kind of making up these stories and setting the scene. And I've also pegged a lot of guys through sexting, a lot of incest stuff that I do not do in clips, but have been having a lot of fun doing it in this particular manner. So I would say that has been a big change.
Hi, my name is Rene. I'm an online dom. I actually go by Princess Rene. And I have to say, business is booming during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm not sure if it's more people bored at home or what, but despite people being out of business, I'm still making a lot of money, and I'm getting tons of traffic on my sites and lots of attention from all my fans. So I feel like porn is truly a recession-proof business.
Hi there, Peep Show Podcast. My name is Audrey Ashes, and I'm a sex worker located in the southeastern portion of the United States. COVID has been very difficult due to the intensification of all the psychological underpinnings that come with the work. Many difficult bouts of self-doubt, long periods without tributes or payment or sales of any kind, the deterioration of client relationships, clients that have no privacy due to constrained living conditions, I'm a sex worker that's 44 years old. I was 2 weeks away from flying to Houston, Texas to shoot with Siren Studios before the pandemic closed us all down. Flights were booked. Everything, my itinerary for my days there, the shoots were completely set up. Things were purchased. Luggage. My talent test was done. My very first talent test was done. $120. And just to have the brakes put on so quickly for the entire world is shocking, and I'm grieving, and it's very hard to remain sexual. It's hard for me to have any type of hope for when things reopen. I feel like I have a shelf life in this business, regardless of any, feel-good slogans designed to cultivate positivity that are wonderful and necessary and well-meaning. I still think that the majority of this business is, of course, going to go to the most obvious flavors, which I am not one of. I'm kinky. I'm a little on the chunky side. I'm old and I'm weird. Very strange. So the market for me, particularly, I feel like that window, that opportunity has evaporated. I'm very fortunate to live with my husband, who we've been married for 22 years. He supports my sex work. I've been paid by my job, and I feel stupid for being upset because we're healthy and things are fine. And I also feel like I'm stupid for even wanting the things that I want at this point. The psychological toll is heavy. The financial toll, in terms of the labor that I put into the fucking work. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I don't know if I can swear. Very sorry. But it's definitely been a lot.
My name is Adora Bautista. I've been doing different forms of sex work on and off since 2011. And this is how COVID-19 has affected my work. I travel around the U.S. I stopped in Vegas beginning in December for a few months. The work there wasn't that good. I tried to collaborate with people, did a few collaborations for clips, which I've yet to publish. But I was mostly trying to see if the escorting work there was good, which it wasn't. Too much competition. And so I was struggling for a bit. Then come March, all of the virus craziness happened. I went to Denver, and kind of surprisingly, I've been doing well since. Through escorting sites, I got some requests for sexting and video call sessions, and because of that, I've been faring pretty well lately. Sites like Tryst and Slixa have added digital dating sections to the profile, so I've had men hit me up for those kinds of sessions. I also got a really good client through the site Skip the Games. I haven't met anyone in person since December, so I haven't gotten any income off of that, but I'm doing well enough off of mostly sexting sessions. And then during March, with the spike of the virus in the US, I was doing really well with clip sales. And then come April and May, not so much. My OnlyFans subscriptions have remained more or less the same. However, I did discount new subscribers at 50%, so I'm making less money because of that, but the subscriber amount has been remaining the same. For a few weeks, I was struggling because I wasn't getting that many sexting or video call sessions, but then I got my stimulus check and that definitely helped things out. And right after that, I started getting requests for more sessions, so that's been very helpful. So overall, it's been actually a really good time for me, better than usual actually.
My name is Sybil Fury, and I am a professional dominatrix and graduate student, and I live between New York City and the Bay Area. The coronavirus has obviously had an enormous impact on what it means to do sex work, and the relationships that I've had with my clients, and the income that I'm making, and the way that I'm interacting with other sex workers. I mean, the change was extremely immediate and drastic. On the one hand, you can see how quick sex workers have been to pivot and reform their hustle. I mean, within days, sex workers were turning to the online brands that they've built, thinking about ways of doing virtual sessions, imagining ways of connecting with clients online. I mean, if you want to look for who are the pioneers of intimacy and staying connected during COVID-19, sex workers are the ones innovating that every single day. And that was really immediate as soon as everything went down, even in spite of like how heavy those first few weeks were. I was really grateful that I had a night floor presence that had already been built and had, a number of clients that way, and was able to turn to phone sex to start to compensate for the income lost from in-person sessions. But as an in-person primary worker, the income from online work is extremely different. Not only is it a different kind of guarantee as opposed to having a in-person session planned and a deposit sent, you're logging on to Night Flirt or, and hoping that someone calls and logs on and hoping that the call lasts a long time and that they come back afterwards. It's a different level of uncertainty. As someone who is a part-time sex worker and full-time student, I have enjoyed the longer lasting relationships that I built with clients because I don't invest a lot of time in marketing for myself. I have a presence, I have, a good solid number of clients who see me every month and are able to help me maintain a standard of living even while in grad school. And with COVID-19 and the sessions being impossible, I've had to try to transition to online work, which is significantly harder than in-person work in so many ways. The income is not a guarantee. You're posting content online, you're, lowering your price on OnlyFans to try to bring people in and then sell them individual videos or clips or, goodies on Night Flirt, and the rates are just lower. I have developed nothing but an utmost respect for online workers who've been able to game the system and make money through it and really develop lifestyles for themselves, because it's really, really hard. In addition to the fact that the income isn't guaranteed in the same way, it's so much harder to put boundaries around your time. Something that I really enjoyed about work pre-coronavirus for myself was that only seeing a few clients a week meant that I was able to dedicate a lot of my mental energies and time to the other things that I'm doing in my life, namely school. And something that's challenging about doing primarily online work is that there are no boundaries. There's no, now the session's starting, it's time to work. You can be working all the time. You can be constantly filming new clips or logging on Night Flirt and taking calls or going live on OnlyFans or interacting with people online and hoping they become paid customers. And the lack of boundaries means, and the fact that we're sitting at home can mean that, you just end up spending, it's unclear how much time you're spending for how much you're making, and it can feel sometimes disheartening and exhausting. And I think as a result of that, I have not been able to work in the same way that I want to since the pandemic has started, and we're reaching a point now where that's going to have to be, a priority over the summer now that the semester has ended. And to be honest, is not something that I'm looking forward to. The stress of managing client relations has been a new problem. There are obviously clients who are extremely committed, who want to support you however they can, who are reaching out to me, asking if they can prepay for sessions or send cash or commission clips, virtual sessions, what have you, and I'm extremely grateful for those relationships. But a lot of the other regulars that I have are not like that. They're expecting me and other providers that I know to provide a lot of emotional labor in dealing with the uncertainty of this time. They are expressing a lot of frustration around not being able to see me and, wanting answers as to when they might be able to. And generally wanting to maintain a relationship and connection in this time, but for some, it's just not worth it to spend money if we're not going to be in person together. And these situations force us as sex workers, and me specifically in this moment, to weigh whether or not I want to continue investing in a relationship with someone that, has been a consistent paid client for months or even years, but who's not willing to go the extra mile during this pandemic, or not. Do I want to invest the time and energy that it takes to hopefully have these clients waiting for me on the other side? Or do I say it's not worth it to give you all of this unpaid time and energy now? And it's a hard choice, because some of the people that have not shown up in the way that I've hoped that I would have wanted are clients that I have fun with. Something that I feel like has been hard about this time is that, yes, there are absolutely going to be clients that we all have who are rock solid, who show up and go above and beyond. They go the extra mile in their dedication to us. But there are also clients who are just there to have fun, who just want to show up for an hour a month or an hour every few weeks and just have a fun, intimate, erotic connection. And that's totally fine. And I love those clients. And those are the ones that things are really uncertain for right now, since they're the ones, at least in my experience, who are the least interested in, finagling other ways of staying connected, especially if it means costing them money. Even personally, it's a bit strange to hold my work persona in this time. Many of us are living in strange situations. We are living in environments we're not meant to be places where we spend 24 hours a day. I'm currently staying with someone not in my own apartment. And it's hard to have the mental space and sometimes even the physical space to get into your work persona. Sybil is usually someone who, I have a ritual of getting into and of cultivating and of finding in myself. And staying in a partner's place in the midst of a pandemic when you've been stuck at home for days or weeks or months at this point, it can be hard to discover where that person lies and how to draw her out. And so that's been a unique challenge of trying to, especially as a pro-dom, who's supposed to exude confidence and power, authority and luxury, to exude those in the midst of a pandemic can be a bit strange. What I will say is something that's been really reassuring and has made me feel extremely connected to the sex worker community are the number of mutual aid efforts that have emerged in the workshops and the trainings. I mean, it has been an outpouring of support amongst the sex worker community, and it happened so fast and so thoroughly. It makes me feel extremely fortunate to be in this community and, getting to work on the Bay Area Workers Support Mutual Aid Fund, to be in contact with a bunch of the other mutual aid funds that are happening around the country, and just to see my friends and other people in my community showing up and doing whatever they can to help those around them build their business in this time. I mean, you would think and be afraid that this would be a time where competition would be, if it were to ever happen, it would be now. And I am so moved by how much that is not the case, and how much people are instead opening up new terrain for working together and supporting each other and seeing this is the kind of thing that we're all in at once. That's fucking amazing. And I will also say, on one positive note, with clients, it has been exciting to find new ways of working together. I have really enjoyed writing. I'm someone who loves to write and is really intellectually oriented or just, verbally oriented. And I have a few clients now that I have developed erotica relationships with, who will send me stories that they're working on that I will read and review. I'll add to them or add the perspective of the dom into them, or I will write out their fantasies. And this has actually enabled me to develop a new kind of intimacy with some of the clients that I had, good relationships with, but were new or were not that intense. And, the limitations imposed on us by the pandemic has allowed those relationships to flourish in new ways. So yeah, I think, for all of the clients for whom this has led to disappointment and distance, and people not showing up in the ways you would hope, there's also been a space for new kinds of intimacy to emerge that I feel extremely grateful for, and also proud of, because, as sex workers, we're figuring out what that looks like. On the one hand, I'm grateful for it, but on the other hand, I'm part of all of these group chats and Twitter threads where sex workers are putting their heads together to say, okay, if not in-person touch, how can we touch each other? And I'm really proud of that. Finally, I'm extremely grateful for the fact that I have a grad student stipend to supplement my income to cover my basic living expenses, and that's enabled me to cope with the pandemic by sometimes not being online and not working, not constantly building new clients, but I see my friends hustling and working extremely hard, and I see that there's not a clear end in sight. And I think that without clear instructions on how to do our work safely, or without clear financial support for how to continue not working, sex workers are going to be forced to make extremely hard decisions. I mean, sex workers are going to have to become fucking DIY epidemiologists just to be able to make their living. And we're not seeing official guidance on how to do our work safely And that is going to lead to a lot of unnecessary harm, both from people who are not working, who might be able to, and people who are working when what they really need is support in order to not have to work. And especially given the length of time this might take for us to reach a point where we can actually physically be in the same room together again, which is where so many of us, myself included, make our money, without really clear guidelines on what we're supposed to be doing. And clear support for being able to compensate for those who can't yet do their work. I'm concerned for people's safety and for what the sex industry is going to look like after this. I have nothing but trust in sex workers, and I've already been seeing amazing resources and guides being shared that have been produced with input from doctors and epidemiologists on how to perform sessions safely. And the fact that we've been able to crowdfund or crowdsource these resources is fucking amazing. But it's also not enough. I'm not surprised that we don't have official support when it comes to this, but I'm also pissed that we don't.
So my name is GoAskAlex, and I am an online sex worker. I do live webcam streams, subscription sites, clip sites, adult films, and more. COVID has affected my personal life and my work life in several ways. I would say overwhelmingly that right now my business is booming, but in a very different way than it ever has been before. As someone who has done predominantly online sex work, I have the advantage of already being online. I already know how to use campsites. I already know how to use clip sites and subscription sites and Twitter and Instagram. So I definitely have a leg up, and I think it's worth taking a second to recognize that that is a privilege and that not every sex worker is going to have the same experience, because I already have a background in being online, and I'm really lucky for that right now. I already have a following online, and that's going to be that's going to have a big impact on the way that my business runs right now during this time when we're all sort of inside and online. So I have seen a big workload increase, but it's been a change of pace, and the work that I'm doing is really different. I've found that on the campsites, I usually cam on my free cams. I have found that while camming on my free cams, I've had less interaction, less viewership, and far less tips. But I found that my subscription sites and my clip sites are booming. So I have found that people do want to pay, $6, $10 to get access to that month of content. Maybe because they're just feeling really horny, maybe because they're bored. I don't know, but it's great for me. The only downside, I think, is that on subscription sites, people tend to want a lot more for a lot less. People are not as willing to necessarily spend as much and can be a little bit more demanding, as these are people who I don't think have the experience of being a campsite chat room member or user, where they've had the experience of interacting with these models for some time. They know what the etiquette is. These are just random people off of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, who've heard about OnlyFans, they've heard about subscription sites, and now they've joined and they don't really know how to act. So there is quite a demand for a lot of content at an unreasonably cheap price, I'm finding. But people are also tipping more frequently. I'm getting a lot of new members, new subscriptions, sometimes 3 or 4 a day, which has been really incredible. So in that sense, it is really booming. But again, I think that's largely because I have the privilege of already having had this skill of working online. And I know for a lot of sex workers who are now trying to transition to online work, it's really scary and it's really difficult. But my workload has increased, like I said. And one of the really difficult things is that I am working in my home, and I'm also kind of trapped in my home. So I'm working probably 10, 11, 12 hours a day, simply because my office is in my house and I'm stuck in my house. So I'm stuck in my office. And that is creating a bit of an unhealthy amount of work. I mean, I'm getting a lot done. I'm posting a lot. I'm earning a significant amount, I think, a decent amount, but it is a lot of work. The other thing that I've noticed is that my interactions have been a little bit different. Some folks are sad and lonely. I've received some selfies or pictures of the dog or of the house from people who I had never even received pictures from before. I have started offering companionship Skypes. So usually my sexual one-on-one chats cost about $5 a minute, but right now I'm offering companionship Skypes, which are $1 a minute. And that's just for a one-on-one video chat. Nothing sexual, no nudity. We just chat. And I've actually had quite a few people take me up on that, which has been a really wonderful and unique opportunity to communicate in this way and connect in this way with my fans who are usually way too busy during the day to do this sort of thing. So it's been really incredible in terms of the relationship forming that I've had with some people. I've also just been struggling a bit in my home space because I moved right before this whole lockdown started. And so I have a lot of furniture that I have to sell, a lot of things that I need to get rid of, some things I need to buy in order to make my home comfy. And I just can't do that right now. So trying to film, trying to cam while my place is sort of a disaster and I don't really have any of the storage or space that I need to feel mentally well and successful, that has been definitely a challenge. But overwhelmingly, I have seen that my business is booming on my subscription sites. But like I said, it's in a really different way. And there's really no way to tell how much longer this is going to last for. Where I live, a lot of restrictions are being lifted, but it's hard to say how this is going to affect the industry long term and if the industry is ever really going to go back to being the exact same way that it was before. Who's to say? But for now, I'm really interested to see what kind of changes are coming our way. Again, just to close up, my name is GoAskAlex. You can find me on Twitter as GoAskAlexMFC, or you can find me on OnlyFans, onlyfans.com/GoAskAlex.
Now is a good time to hit the pause button and head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/peepshowpodcast. Even $1 a month shows us that you care and want to see Peep Show continue to thrive. Also, you can help increase our reach with a review on iTunes.
Hello, my name is Luna Luz, and you can find me on Twitter and OnlyFans as Luna Luz BBW, LUNALUZ BBW. So lockdown has been really difficult, and it's been quite literally a roller coaster. It started a couple months ago. And, I also have a vanilla job that I loved. I hadn't been working there very long, but it was the one job that I really enjoyed. And so when they were like, okay, well, you can't work now, I, naturally was like, okay, well, it's not too bad. I can, do sex work stuff until things get back to normal. After taking a couple of days, I just kind of immersed myself and tried really, really hard to make new content on OnlyFans and try to do some phone stuff. And I saw really quickly this sharp rise and fall of interactions with sex work that clients were having or potential clients. I think there was sort of a rush, like, oh, we have all this free time. Like, at the same time, there were people sort of flocking to the sites for the first time. So there were people signing up for OnlyFans and or creating an OnlyFans account for the first time. And there's this sort of oversaturation that happened very quickly in the industry. And I, was witnessing that all the while trying to still work and worrying about money and worrying about the world and worrying about whether I'm going to see my friends soon or my family soon. And, as time went on and I was missing people's birthdays and, going through holidays and doing all this stuff, I started realizing that the sparse interactions with clients, because at this point, it's really like pulling teeth, at least for me, as I think it has a lot to do with, just where I fit in the sex work world. I'm, a woman of color, I'm fat. So things just get a little bit harder for people, who aren't, tall and thin and, white and blonde. So, over time, I felt like I was resenting my clients and I was resenting client interactions. And, there are a couple clients that I really adore and treat me very well, and I will always love them and will continue to love them. And I love all my clients, but the interactions really, really started to sort of boil down and be this like concentrated feeling of shallowness. And, while I was in the other life, before this happened, I really loved to, have my vanilla job, and I'll come home and I'll make a video or get on the phone or, interact with clients over OnlyFans. And it felt good. It felt like I was enriching people's lives. I was giving them an experience that they've been yearning for or needed, or intimacy that they needed, or just an ear to listen to their problems. Or, I fully enjoy that stuff. I'm definitely a textbook empath, but I think coming to sex work with that sort of empathic sensibility also makes you drained really quickly. So there was a balance that needed to happen. There's a balance of I have my vanilla job, I have my sex work life, I have my life that sort of fits in pockets in between that. And after a while, it started to feel like I have my apartment and I have sex work. And that was becoming a problem for me, because once you start resenting the whole work, all of the aspects of that work, then you're not going to be doing a good job. You're not going to be feeling like it's a fulfilling or enriching experience or an empowering experience. And you have to take a step back. And that's what I did. I sort of just stopped posting. I made a post on Twitter and was like, I will come back, once I feel like I'm not a compartmentalized version of myself, because, there are really beautiful aspects of sex work, but the only thing that was sort of bubbling to the top for me was how I have to put on a mask for my clients. And it started to become less and less, not even just enjoyable, because all sex work is not enjoyable. It is hard work, but it just became so draining that it was getting to like a dangerous point for me. So these past couple weeks, I have been doing other things. I've been cleaning a lot. I've been painting. I've been baking a lot, and not thinking about sex work and, missing my friends and missing my family and missing the routine of day-to-day life, doing other things that isn't about, me masturbating or, showing my tits in a certain angle or, saying some stranger's name in a custom over and over while I jiggle my ass, It's been nice to take a step back. I know that I will return at some point. I do love sex work. I'm not trying to make sex work out to be this thing that I fully resent. I only resent the experiences that I've had while in this lockdown because it's been such a weird time, and it's just the last thing I want to do is just to have these sorts of interactions with strangers. And I know that is sort of like a privileged thing, right? Because not all sex workers can just completely stop because the world is shut down. There are people out there that have to work twice as hard from them already working twice as hard to make ends meet. And I recognize that. I recognize that it's a privilege for me to be able to stop all operations and just sort of live life the way I need to in order to sort of mentally be okay. And, I feel for anybody that has to, that's feeling like I felt and has to continue. But yeah, I'm just sort of biding my time, baking and cleaning and playing with a cat. And hopefully, things will get back to normal. And not the same normal. Everyone knows that. But hopefully we'll be in a place where I can have that nice balance of vanilla job with sex work and everything that fits in between.
Hi, I'm April Wood. I'm a phone sex operator, an erotic audio producer, and a writer. And before COVID-19, I had been working from home exclusively at these various professions for about 2.5 years. And initially, my day-to-day schedule wasn't all that different. I was working from home before. I'm still working from home. I'm very grateful to still have a job, and that my job itself in terms of call frequency and volume hasn't gone down. In fact, if anything, it's gone up. Some days are better than others. But I will say the overall tone of the calls has definitely been affected by COVID. For example, I have a client who he's been calling me for a couple of months, and he always has the same fantasy, and it's an office fantasy, and that's where I'm in his office, he's my boss, and I'm his secretary, and I have a very strict and specific dress code, blouse, pencil skirt, high heels, and I go into his office and he spanks me. And very fun, by the way. And after quarantine began, when he called, he would say, "Okay, we're still at work, but now we're in my home office, but you're still my secretary, and the dress code still applies." And I really appreciated the fact. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally your secretary, and I'm in your home office." But it's like we need the consistency, and I liked that. Apart from it being in a home office, it was pretty much exactly the same scenario, but that he still felt the need to move at home. Like, we couldn't just imagine that we were in the office. We had to move home because he had moved home, I suppose, work-wise. Many of my clients already were calling me to not just get off sexually, but also to communicate intimacy, which I think is a big misconception about professional phone sex. Everyone thinks it's just like heavy breathing and moaning and what are you wearing? But really, I have very intimate conversations with my clients. We talk about our lives. We talk about our jobs and the day-to-day. I love hearing about my clients' jobs. And, right now there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of stress, a lot of just, they call and they just need to unload. And I just listen to them. And, then we'll either do a role play or we won't. Like, maybe we'll just talk, or maybe we'll watch an episode of something together and just bond. One client told me that because of quarantine, I was the only person he'd talked to that day. I think everyone right now is feeling very isolated, including me. And it really, really helps to have someone to talk to. And I'm loving my job more than ever now because I have the opportunity to do that. And you see other little things, like I had one client with whom I had a standing appointment during which we would talk. And that has since moved over into texting only, or texting mostly. Maybe we'll catch little tiny moments for conversation here and there, but for the most part, it's texting now. And then other clients, I had the exact opposite, where we would mostly communicate over chat. And now they're the only person in their office. Like, nobody else is working except for them. So they have privacy and space, and so they're able to finally call. And I've gotten to know and hear the voices of some clients whom I had only ever texted with before. And that's been very interesting and eye-opening, or ear-opening. And I had one client who was a doctor call me and just really want to hear over and over again that, here was a place without stress. Here was a place where he didn't have to worry, where he didn't have any responsibilities. All he had to do was listen to me and do what I told him. And he just wanted a very affectionate, kind, loving, extremely gentle femdom scenario. And it was lovely. It was a truly important experience for me, and hopefully for him. Many of my clients have said that calls with me, taking these little moments, are a form of self-care for them. And I'm so grateful that I can help provide any form of connection and care. And in terms of audio production, I see clients requesting audios that, they specifically say they don't want to hear any mention of the virus at all. Like, the audios are where they go to escape, so they don't want to hear about the virus. But then other clients, when requesting audios, say they do want to hear about the virus, but specifically they want to hear, it's all going to be okay. It's going to pass. You're safe, like the doctor, you're safe here. And there's been more and more requests for audios that are explicitly affectionate, that are romantic, that are loving, that acknowledge that people are separated from loved ones right now. Like, romantic partners are separated, couples are separated even. I know of a few people who, can't be with their spouses at the moment. And so audios can hopefully give them a way to kind of insert themselves into a fantasy where, they're reminded that, yes, we're separated right now, but we'll be together again soon. Or we're not separated, we are together. And the nice thing about audio erotica is that the imagination takes over and truly anything becomes possible. So I also get an interesting perspective in the sense that because my clients come from everywhere, not just various regions in the United States, but like internationally as well. So I get little insights into what the virus is like in different parts of the world, how different states are handling it, how different countries are handling it, and really, really seeing things on a micro level, person to person. And that's very interesting. You know, we're all going through the same thing, and we're all reading the news, and we're aware that this is a collective experience. But talking to individuals on the phone drives home the fact that we are all going through this in different ways, in different worlds, but everyone is affected by this. And you really can see how it's affecting everyone's individual lives. And, you know, it's fascinating, and I am, again, very grateful for the opportunity to experience that and to provide help and connection in any way I can. So, yeah, if you're interested in following me, learning more about my work, check me out on Twitter at April_all_the_way. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, I'm Starlight XO, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about my personal experience with working in the sex industry and how I have personally been affected by COVID-19. So before this pandemic, I wasn't an online sex worker. I was a stripper full-time, dancing in clubs in Los Angeles. That's all I've known for the past 2 years. And I still did have cam girlfriends, even though I didn't personally do online work. I just didn't see it as something I was going to do because I was so content with stripping. So when things started to get worrisome with the virus, my club did take precautions, like taking everybody's temperature, but I still didn't think it was going to get as bad as they did, where everything would shut down. When the orders got sent for non-essential businesses to close, so my club including, I went into like a shell shock, and everything became very, very real. I had just signed a lease to a new apartment. The rent was triple the cost of my last one, and I wasn't sure what the heck I was going to do. I mean, it did, but it was just really scary. I knew I was going to have to start online work, but like, where the heck am I supposed to start? I know it takes years for online girls to build up their business and fan base in order to make the same kind of income that I was already used to making by stripping. I reached out to my friends that were already established in the industry, Lydia Love and Mary Moody. And Lydia did her absolute best to share me to her fan base, and Mary absolutely held my hand through my entire online career so far. I would not be in the position that I am without them. And I think that I'm very fortunate for it and that I'm a lucky one. So basically, also, they're not going to accept things for this, but really, I would not be in the space I would be without them. Mary gave me all this equipment that I needed to use for camming. She let me use her lights, her mic, her Lush, her webcam, all things that I didn't even have the budget to buy and still don't really have the budget to buy myself. And also so much tech support. I have no freaking clue how to do anything online. I've been a stripper. I do in person. I'm used to person, interpersonal communication. I'm not good with laptops, web, anything. Like, I suck. And so having that help, I can't even imagine what I would have done without them. Like, I really would not have been able to figure any of it out, and I would have been stuck. For actual online work, it's so hard. It's a completely different ball game. Just know that anyone who is an online sex worker is working so incredibly hard. When I worked in the strip club, I had the luxury of going in whenever I wanted and working as little or as much as I wanted. I didn't have to have any consistency because the club was always going to be there. I could work for a really long time and then not at all. But with camming, I have to have a structure, I have to have a schedule, or else I'll lose what fan base I have been able to build. My core group of guys are all the same guys coming into my chat room, and it's not like the strip club where it's different guys every night, so I don't have to worry about consistency. There's so much that goes into online work, and my brain never really shuts off from work anymore. I'm so much more busy during this pandemic. than I have been ever while working. While most people are at home, like bored in the house, bored, I am working my ass off. Even when I'm not live streaming, I'm editing, I'm coming up with new content. I feel like my brain can never go on off, and it is something that I am so not used to. With the consistency, I know that my guys need to be able to depend on me. They need to know that they can trust me, and I want to be able to always offer that. If I were to do the same thing camming that I do stripping, where I cam a bunch and then just stop for weeks, my fan base isn't going to stay. I'm never going to be able to build that core group, because they're going to have, they need the consistency. They need that trust, and that's what I need to offer them. The biggest thing is I feel completely unstable right now. Even though no money is guaranteed in any form of sex work, at least I knew what the heck I was doing when stripping. I had my craft down, my art, and I knew that going into the club, I was going to make some type of money. With camming, I have no clue what I'm doing, like absolutely zero. And I feel like any kind of money that I'm making on any of my platforms can just go away in a blink of an eye. And that is the most sickening feeling ever, to not feel stable. And it's absolutely terrifying. But I really can't complain at the same time, because even having this option is an absolute safety net for me. And it's just like, I have a small, amazing fan base now after a few months that is so supporting and loving of me. They offer me so much fulfillment, and I can only try my best to do the same for them. They're my little dream team, and this has been the most drastic change of my life I have ever experienced. And I'm just trying to survive, but I hope that we're all able to make the best out of it for ourselves, and that we all stay safe, happy, and healthy. And the online community has all of my love, and my only wish is that we all get through this.
So, I was asked, has the COVID pandemic affected my adult business? Well, yes, it has. This is Davie of Davie Productions, and you can find me on Twitter at Davie_PROD. So Davie, D-A-V-I-E. It has affected me in 3 separate ways. The first way, number 1, has been a drop in sales. I've noticed about a 65 to 75% drop in sales. Customers are spending less. I honestly believe it's due to people not having discretionary, or I should say, income just to throw away, So they're being more discreet on what they're spending on. There's still sales, but it's just not as brisk as it normally is. And I've seen growth every month for the last 12 months. The second way it's affected me is I cannot hire talent for scenes. All my talent is boy-girl scenes. Basically, the average guy, who is my bread and butter, likes to see a pretty girl. And if I can't hire the talent for the scenes, I can't create content to sell. So that has affected my sales, and that has affected my ability to produce content. The third and last way is I cannot promote at events. Now, I do a lot of promotion. I do pop culture events. I do exotica. I do nudes a poppin'. I was going to do adult con. I was going to do fetish con, or a fetish con. And I cannot do any of those events because just about every event of those is either canceled or possibly canceled. So that basically is how the COVID-19 crisis is affecting Davie, me, in my adult business. You are welcome to contact me on Twitter at Davie_Productions or Davie_PROD. Say hi. And, I am more than open to talk about the industry. I've been in it since 2003. And thank you very much for your time.
Hey, this is Amanda Sweet. I am an online content creator, kind of an internet girlfriend. I do sexting, I make porn by myself and with other people, though not right now, unfortunately. I love sex work. There are so many aspects about sex work that I adore. It would be hard to list them all in this recording, but this coronavirus lockdown is the first time that it has really felt like a job to me. I have to force myself and motivate myself and hype myself up just to get anything done. And most of this work is about advertising, and I'm not really in the mood to advertise myself right now. So this is a time in which there are way more stressors in life than usual. Things we consider necessities that were super easy to get before are now really difficult. People are lonely. People are deprived. So my clients are way more needy right now, which sounds like a great thing, right? Like more money coming my way. But the thing is, though, is I'm stressed too. I'm in the same boat. I crave things that relax me, and yet I need to be the cheerful, sexy one because that's what my clients need. So I'm pushing myself even harder during probably one of the most stressful times of my life, and that's making me more stressed. And honestly, I have had a few breakdowns during all this. There's also the all eyes are on me aspect. In a time when no one is particularly worried about their appearance, wearing PJs all day, going days without grooming, because no one's going anywhere. So, that's the vibe that I'm in too. I'm in my PJs all day. I'm not wearing makeup. So, but when I need to record something, I am getting all dolled up solely for that short video, and then I'm washing it all back off. And that might sound whiny, but it's kind of exhausting. How would some of you react if I told you to shave or style yourself right now when you aren't leaving the house? It just adds up. There's also the fact that this job is about sexiness, and same as everyone else, I'm not getting any professional haircuts right now. I'm not getting the exercise I normally would. I'm not able to get what I want from the store. So I'm not even feeling particularly healthy right now, let alone sexy. So sometimes I get anxious that I'll lose customers because I'm not quote unquote myself right now. But then I realize I would prefer to have customers that look at me as a human, because I am. So, to all the customers that are staying with me through this, you're the real MVP. And I'm grateful, and we need more people like you who recognize that sex workers and everyone are under a lot of stress right now. But we have a lot of extra all eyes on you stress going on, so thank you for understanding. One final point. While my cat is screaming at me to give him attention. Oh, that's another point, though, is I cannot imagine having kids and being on lockdown with my kids when I'm a sex worker. I deal with enough with my cat. Oh, I deal with so much with my cat. Most of porn is getting my cat out of the picture. So, being in this business and being stuck at home with your kids, dear sex workers who are dealing with that, I see you, and I'm so sorry. But the final point I wanted to make is that I was really starting to rely on income from making porn with other people rather than solo work, because in my experience, porn with other people gets me more money. and that's not available right now. So I'm losing a lot of income from that, and honestly, there's only so many things I can come up with to do by myself. If you're a solo sex worker, if you're a solo content creator, huge props to you, because I am exhausted trying to come up with different things to do constantly.
Hi, it's Shy Spells, and this is my little tidbit on how COVID-19 has affected me as a sex worker. I made a little list. So first things first is I'm an online sex worker, so I don't do full service or any in-person work right now. So in that aspect, COVID didn't affect me as hard as it did people who do in-person work, because I've always worked online. And so since there's more users online, I feel there's been more traffic. For example, I remember during the first couple weeks of the official shutdowns, StreamMate contacted through email and was giving alerts like, hey, our traffic is up, get online. So that was something that I noticed right away, right offhand, was the influx of traffic. So I had started OnlyFans in January. So this was before I was even thinking about COVID. April was my highest grossing month on OnlyFans. Also, I would like to add that I've seen a couple other people say that April was one of their, either the or one of the highest grossing months. And I want to say it has to do with the stimulus checks and people being at home so much. I'm seeing OnlyFans everywhere, on Facebook, on Whisper, on Twitter, even outside the sex work community. Before it was feet, you probably heard the joke, oh, I'm gonna sell feet pics, pay for college, and that was going around. And then once the pandemic hit and a lot of people lost their jobs and lost their income, I felt like that was the new feet pics. Oh, I'll just make an OnlyFans. I feel people think it's easy. And so that was the first thing that popped into their mind, oh, I'll just make an OnlyFans and make some money to help me. I'm seeing it a lot, even on sites where it's definitely not for sex work, such as Whisper, which is a anonymous chat app. So I see a lot of messages oh, should I start an OnlyFans? How do I start an OnlyFans? If I started an OnlyFans, would you subscribe? What type of stuff? They're fishing. So before this whole pandemic, I know there was that data breach scare with OnlyFans, and it was content being leaked and people sharing leaked content and whatnot. And I was seeing so much slut shaming where they're oh, I would never own an OnlyFans. I have a real job. I'm an independent woman. I make my own money. I don't need to lower myself and do sex work. I was seeing stuff like that. So to go from that atmosphere and then just a few weeks later to seeing all these vanilla girls, girls who did not work in the sex community at all or look down on the sex work industry and are now oh, hey, how do I make an OnlyFans? Can anybody help me with my OnlyFans? It's kind of almost like a slap in the face to see that. So to go from, oh, we're just sluts and we deserve anything bad that happens to us, to them want to jump on the bandwagon because they think it's easy money. It's kind of hard to see. It's kind of hurtful, to be honest. And then another point I wanted to make was I don't feel that all this new influx of girls trying to do online sex work, they don't think they understand the permanence of online sex work. I feel you should always go in with the idea that people will find out what you do. Act like it's already going to happen, and you need to have a game plan on how you're going to deal with it, because not everyone is going to accept you. And so I'm seeing a lot of the girls who join make a lot of rookie mistakes. And like I said, I don't think they want to do this permanently. I think it's a knee-jerk reaction to the pandemic. So, for example, it's a girl I went to high school with, and she started in OnlyFans during this pandemic. And she keeps posting her real name along. She's like mixing her personal profiles with her sex work profiles. And so she's advertising her persona on her personal profiles. And it's scary because I'm like, that's not safe. Like, because I remember when I first started, I used to think that too. Like, oh, who would do that? Who would be that much of an asshole to dox me? Who would be that much of an asshole to try to hurt me or blackmail me? And you would be surprised. You could like talk to the sweetest people, the sweetest clients, and then you make them mad one day, and then they retaliate. So I'm seeing a lot of newbies come in, and they don't know what they're doing. They don't understand the permanence of what they're doing, and so they're not being safe about it. And the last point I wanted to make was, I feel online sex work is very saturated. That's what a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people don't understand this. Whenever I tell people I do online sex work, their immediate thought is, oh my gosh, you must be making bank. But they don't realize that those models who make a living or more are kind of at the top. And of course, they're going to be at the forefront because everyone loves a success story. If you're on Chatterbait, no one's going to be like, oh, these are our lowest earning models. You're going to put your best earning models up front. Like, oh, hey, look at this person. You could be like this person too if you work hard enough. So that's a big thing I don't think people understand, is that when you start online sex work, it's very saturated. You have to stand out. You have to be consistent. It could take a long time. It could take years to build up a fan base. It's not quick, easy, overnight money, to me anyways. I feel like some people look out. They already have an online following or whatnot, and they look out. But I don't think people understand how time consuming and how much dedication and work you have to put into it. And also, it makes me wonder, so once the pandemic is under control and we can go back to quote unquote normal, will they shut down their OnlyFans, shut down their campsites, and then act like it never happened? Or will they be like, okay, I have a new appreciation for sex work and I'm gonna advocate for them. I'm gonna shut down people who talk bad on them. I'm gonna look up laws. I'm gonna look up FOSTA and SESTA and see what that was about and what I can do to help. I wonder if they'll stick up for us more now that we're seeing a lot of more vanilla people getting involved. Overall, bottom line, COVID has affected me. Well, I would say more so it hasn't affected me directly, other than my sales going up a lot in April. I've been really fortunate with COVID not affecting my work. My heart goes out a lot to people who do in-person work and haven't been able to make that money. So yeah, once again, this is Shy Spells. It's been a pleasure. I hope I added some type of insight or something to the conversation. I often feel like, since I'm so small time, that my opinion doesn't really matter in these terms, but I hope that someone, or you or someone listening gathered something from this, some information that helped them out, and I hope I don't sound like a complete dork. Thank you.
This is Courtney Trouble. I'm a porn maker. I run a porn making studio, and I also sell porn online at troublefilms.com. We are currently still open. We will always be open online You can get a membership. You can buy digital films, all of our films. You can download all of them and own them forever. So this is my lockdown story so far. Before the pandemic, I was living in a shared household. I had roommates, and I had a partner in another town. So I took stock of what mattered the most in my life and decided to relocate. So that's the biggest thing that's happened. Before the pandemic, I was actively doing hardcore porn scenes for various companies and also for my own company, Trouble Films. Now, I don't see myself performing with anybody except myself until we really understand how to treat or cure or prevent COVID-19, which at this point, we barely know what it is. So I could say I'm on semi-permanent retirement. My occupation has drastically changed. I'm no longer shooting lesbian BDSM in a dungeon. I no longer have a queer porn studio in my shared household. But I do have the ability to create solo content. So I have been modeling and doing different things here and there. But I miss the day-to-day interactions of being on porn sets and working with other sex workers. So in California, we've been on lockdown since mid-March. But of course, the virus has been in the United States since January, as far as we know. So one of my biggest fears is that the adult industry and anybody that went to AVN, the AVN Awards in Vegas, or LA for the Expos Awards, or anything like that during the beginning of the year for travel, for work, for production, our industry really heavily relies on that kind of behavior. We move a lot. We touch a lot. So that's just scary because I do know people who have suffered from COVID symptoms, and I know people who have been diagnosed, and it's just scary because we clearly don't live in a country here in the United States that seems to care about anybody. Anybody. So it's scary. It's scary. And yeah, thank you, Peep Show, for letting me be honest somewhere about everything that we're going through. And I know I'm usually a really optimistic, positive, bubbly person. So maybe, I can end on a high note and say, whatever we build now is what will be here when this is all over. Things might fall, things might break, things might die, things might go away, but the things we start now, the things we build now will be what's standing when we're all able to come out of our homes again. So keep the faith, keep looking for inspiration, keep looking for creativity wherever you can. And maybe you'll build something beautiful for yourself that you weren't expecting in these dark times. I'm sending my love to everybody out there. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us for yet another episode of the Peep Show podcast.
I'm PJ Sage, and you can find me on Twitter at PeachSage.
And I'm Jessie Sage, and you can find me on Twitter at sapiotextual or at jessiesage.com.
We would like to remind you that we have a Patreon account and would appreciate your support. Please visit patreon.com/peepshowpodcast. Our music is courtesy of Joe Kennedy. The show was produced by Jessie and PJ Sage.
Signing off. Have a great week.